So, hi everyone. Um, my name is Amy Claire Fontaine. You just saw me a moment ago with the zoology panel, but now you get to listen to me fumble through words again. Yay! Um, so, this panel is about getting started in interactive fiction. So, I'm going to figure out how to share my. I see the button. Let's see here. Just got to get this up real quick. Hope everyone is doing well today. Let's see. I have a PowerPoint, so I'm just getting it up real quick and then I'll share my screen.
Hi, Amy. While you're doing that, I'm just here to let you know that I will get you questions as I see them in the chat room.
Okay, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Thanks for making this work. Let's see here. Ah! So let's see. I'll share my screen. Think. Ah. No, you know what? Ah, I'll just talk. Okay, so um, getting started in interactive fiction. Well, what is interactive fiction? It's a hybrid medium. It's sort of a cross between a game and a book, um, in which it requires reader or player input in order to advance the story. So this can include clicking links. It can include typing in text in order to advance the story. Um, or it can involve game books, things like Dungeons and Dragons, and things like tabletop role playing games where you write down stats as you go, things like that. Um, and so nowadays, there's a lot of different kinds of interactive fiction. There's hypertext fiction, which involves things like clicking links um, to advance the story. There's parser fiction, which is a much older type and tends to involve typing things. There'll be a description like, in this room, there's a toaster and a bed and a blah, and to the west, there's a door. And then there's like a little cursor, and you can type, go west, or examine the toaster, or things like that. So hypertext is clicking links. Parser is typing things. Um, there's game books like I mentioned with tabletop role playing and things like that, and the old choose your own adventure books that that used to exist, where you'd like turn to page 5 if you decide to follow the man in the green hat. Um, and there are things like visual novels, um, which are more game-like, but still involve, clicking things to make decisions, things like that, and usually include art assets, music, things like that. Um, so let's see, why would you write interactive fiction? One possible reason is to examine choices and their consequences. So there are a lot of text-based games that are that the only mechanic involves player choice, where you click through things in order to make decisions for the main character of the story. They tend to be in second person, so that kind of immerses the reader in the story. Um, so you can examine choices and their consequences. You can provide better player immersion to let them feel and experience and direct the story. Um, you can write interactive fiction because it'll help to get your writing on more platforms and with more markets. There are a lot of great places to publish interactive fiction. You can work with Choice of Games, or a number of other publishers to get your work out there. And there's also great places where you can self-publish your work through. Itch is a great website where people post a lot of indie games and things like that, and you can post things there entirely for free to share with people. Um, and you can just write interactive fiction because it's fun. So let's see. There are a number of different engines you can use. Twine is uh, my favorite, I would say, because it's hypertext based, so it involves clicking links to make choices, and the mechanics are very simple. It's entirely free, um, and just very user friendly. You don't have to know any coding at all, and so Twine's a great option. And there's a Choice Script and Inkle Writer also for choice based hypertext fiction. For parsers, there's a few different engines that people like to use, like Inform, Quest, TADS3. Um, but for very much beginners, I don't know that I'd recommend parsers unless you have prior experience with programming and whatnot, as they're a bit more complex to play and to write, but they're interesting, especially from a historical perspective, because a lot of the very earliest computer games were parsers, and so just involved, text and typing things to go places. And before we had really advanced graphical systems like we do now, that's kind of what computer games were like. And for visual novels, a great engine is RenPy, which is very cool because it's very user friendly, and there are great tutorials to get you started with like knowing how to put the art assets together, get the music working. Um, there's a little bit of coding involved, but it's very there's a lot of great documentation to help get you started. So highly recommend that as well. And so let's see, now is the part where I do need to screen share. So let me see here. So I'm going to go into Twine and get us started making a little piece of interactive fiction. Um, let's see here. Thank you all for bearing with me. I feel really awkward right now. Let's see, now I'm going to try to screen share. Twine. Hmm. Let's see, can I? Hmm. Discord doesn't seem to recognize that I have the Twine app open as something I can share through the share your screen. Um, I don't know how to fix that. Sorry. Let me see here. Mm, is there a way? Let's see. I keep clicking share your screen on the. Oh, yeah, the Discord app is the only option that's showing up for something I can share with you. Hmm. Maybe I'll close Twine and open it again. see here. Open twined again. Can I share it now? No. Hmm. I'm sorry. I don't know why it's not connecting.
Well, while we're trying to figure that out, I do have some questions to potentially help. For one, though, someone suggested potentially checking to see if you can share the screen to a window on Discord. But one of the questions that you've been
Oh.
asked here, how
Hmm.
difficult does it get to manage multiple branching storylines? One could easily just branch out forever.
Um, Choice of Games actually has a really great blog post about this on their website. A few times they tackle game design related questions. And the technique that they suggest to keep that manageable is called delayed branching, where it tends to work through variables that happen behind the scenes. Because you have a scene, for example, where a character makes a choice, and then that will affect that will alter a variable behind the scenes so that the game can keep track of the choice you made. But then um, it goes back to the same point. So, like, there's a choice point here, and you make the choice, and um, then you go to the next one, and all of these choices diverge onto this and come back onto the same point. But the game stores the variables from the decisions you made for later, so that they end up having consequences down the road. So, I had a really great graphic that shows this. I'm sorry, but let's see. Maybe I'll post the Choice of Games article about delayed branching to the Discord at least, because it's really useful and
You set
maybe
that there,
in.
I'll be able to get it into the main chat room for everyone.
Okay, thank you. Um, see. Yeah, because let's see. I will post this to you. Here you go.
While you're hunting for that too, I can give you another question. Do you feel that choose your own adventure games severely limits what you can do and the quality of a game?
Um, I'm uh I'm a little unclear on the question. Is it like does it affect the quality of the writing or limit the it does impact what you can do with the story if you have to use if you have to consider mechanics as well as narrative. That's something I kind of struggled with making my game for Choice of Games. Um, because you have to find a balance between what the game can manage and what you can write. So um, it can kind of restrict things and constrain things, but it can also be useful too, I guess, because it just kind of challenges you to think about writing in a different way. If that makes sense.
See, that seems to go great into this next question, though, honestly. Why would you pick to write interactive fiction over a linear story? I assume that might be one of the reasons to challenge yourself.
Yeah, it can be a useful challenge, but it also it can provide greater immersion for the reader into the story because they're sort of experiencing the story themselves, and and changing the course of the future potentially even by the choices that they make. And so stories that examine the power of choices can be useful things to write as interactive fiction, and also in terms of parser based interactive fiction, it can be fun for like exploring a space, a fictional space, but like entirely through text. And so I guess there are just things you can do with it that you can't do with just a linear story. But I guess a story can have greater emotional impact sometimes, if the reader is kind of invested in it because they're making the choices themselves.
Wonderful. And we do have another question for you as well. Do you find
Sure.
yourself getting more attached to one ending or one choice or some sort of subplot over another when you write?
Mm, um, that's that's an interesting one because I actually got to watch somebody stream my new game yesterday and the day before, and it was kind of fun because one of the characters actually gender swaps depending on the orientation you pick for your character. And so the default for this character is female, but if the person says they're interested in romantically interested in male characters, then this character becomes male. And I tended to kind of envision this person as a female character, and so it was very, very fun seeing them through different eyes as a male character, and whether that would affect the story at all, which it doesn't. And so um, it's actually pretty fun because I tend to think about stories as like this sort of journey from point A to point B with like certain things happening along the way. And so this just kind of expands everything and makes you think about all kinds of different possibilities, because I feel like the choices I would make in a situation would often be very different from the choices a reader might make. And so I guess it's not really that I'm I mean, I can have one like vision or idea about how the story is going to go, but it's honestly more fun to see people interact with it in different ways and have it reach different conclusions. Because, like in this interactive novel I have, for example, there's a number of different things you can do. There's a conflict going on between humans and fox spirits in this world, and you can choose whether you want to support one side more heavily than the other, and whether you want them to reach a peaceful resolution to their conflict, or have everything just end in blood and fire and just kill humanity. And so, I mean, as like a kind-hearted person, I feel like I would be less inclined to just destroy everyone, but it can be kind of fun just exploring completely different possibilities. And so interactive fiction is great for role playing because you can take on a persona that's very different from your own. Um,
Oh gosh, this seems to, especially that previous answer right there at the end, perfect for the next question. Would you write something you didn't like as a choice to give more agency to players? Perhaps killing everyone?
yes, I absolutely did that a lot of times because these games are meant to be very open-ended and to accommodate different people with different personalities and different play styles. So, um, for example, as a fox spirit, a magical fox, you can pursue entirely different goals. So you can decide you want to be more of a hero who helps everyone and saves the day, or like a divine messenger who like inspires people to follow the goddess, or you can be a trickster who just messes with everyone just because you can, or a demonic fox who just you know destroys things and wants the world to burn, um and yeah, well, some of those choices might be less like what I would want to do at a particular point, because yeah, maybe I wouldn't want to go around killing people. It's fun to just sort of imagine like what kind of a character would do that, would want to do that, and just see um, how the story is different and exposes different aspects of the characters, depending on what you choose to do. I recently discovered the game Undertale, which is not entirely text based. It's a video game, but I absolutely love it, and that's something that they explore in a very great way, because you can be a pacifist in that story and try your best to just talk your way out of things and charm people, well, monsters, and just not kill anyone, or you can just be totally evil and just like eliminate people you meet instead of being friends with them. And like, I wouldn't want to do that because I love the characters so much, but at the same time, I feel like from what I've seen of those playthroughs, it kind of exposes a different side of those characters in that world, depending on how you respond to it. So, just can be interesting for thought experiments, I guess. Sorry, I never got
Uh,
Twine working, but that's
it
okay.
is
I'm
it is
happy to
all
just
right.
answer
Actually,
questions.
there's a question right here. I promise chat that I'm somewhat going in order, but that one's a little bit too perfect. The question was, what program did you create Fox Spirit in, and was there any coding involved in making it an executable game?
Um, yeah, so I made Fox Spirit through Choice Script, which is a programming language owned by a company called Choice of Games, and it's really fun, really really user friendly. There's a lot of documentation involved. They have a wiki that you can use. They have forums where you can go to ask questions, and they just have a basic tutorial on their website for getting started. And I think you install the files for the program through GitHub, but then once you have it downloaded, it's really easy to use. There is a little bit of coding involved, but like I said, on the website they have really great posts about getting started in Choice Script and making your own games. So it's really 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 basic. I think it's derived from Python, but it it barely counts as coding really, because it involves, well, I mean, there's probably a lot of like really advanced programmers in the audience here who know more about coding than I do, but generally it's more sort of like basic like if then type things, and there's like stats that run in the background that get manipulated based on choices that you make. And but yeah, it's barely coding at all. Like, it's really easy for getting started. Uh it's But I do use a text editor to work on the files. I use Notepad plus plus, but I'm on Windows, so I don't know. Different programs work best for different people, but that's easy because um, each chapter is like a text file. So and then there's a stats file that has the stats screen that the player sees, and there's a startup file that just sort of creates all of the variables that you're going to use in the game. And so it can be kind of confusing operating the different windows and stuff, but I found it really fun. But yeah, this was actually my first experience with coding at all, really, and so it was a little bit intimidating at first, but Choice of Games was really great to work with. Um, if you want to publish your own choice script games, um, it's completely free to do so. You can do it, I think, even on your own website or things like that, unless you want to make money off the games. if you want to make money off a choice script game, you have to sign a contract with Choice of Games and publish either through Choice of Games or their hosted games label, or through or just through signing a license with them, and then that agrees to let them have 25% of your profits if you choose to self-publish the game on your own website. But yeah, I like choice script. It's kind of fun to mess around with.
I think my next question, when creating an interactive fiction story, do you start at the beginning and branch forward, or with the end and feed the branches into it?
Ooh, I've heard different people have different strategies for doing this, but when I was writing Fox Spirit, we'd just write a couple chapters at a time, and then rework them and edit them. And then once those chapters were approved, then I was okay to work on the next part of the story. So it was, uh, and then I'd get advances according to like once I reached certain milestones with the chapters as I went. So it was a very, it felt a little choppy, I guess, to be working on these chapters and then only these chapters, and then once those are done, working on this. Because I feel like generally with a regular novel, you just write the whole story, and then you'd look for editorial input and beta readers and things like that. Um, so this was kind of a different thing than I was used to, but I think people who are more experienced in game design than I am could probably give better input on that, because it seems like a lot of people. Um, well, actually, I guess I should say that before I even started working on my game at all, we had I had to get an outline approved with Choice of Games, which has been really important and really useful, because I could not have managed such a huge, complex story without at least having an outline to start with. And we deviated from that outline a couple of times and had slightly different story beats occasionally, but yeah, having a design document or like an outline to work from if you're writing a very long piece of interactive fiction is really essential, I think. So you do have an idea of like where the story is going to go and how it's going to end and the different beats along the way. I just was working on the actual chapters and pieces in more in segments.
All right, then let's see here. How do you manage failed states or dying in games like interactive fiction?
Hmm. Well, that's a rule that Choice of Games has, is that even if you fail at what you're going to do, or even if you die, it has to be at least epic in some kind of way. Um, and um, a lot of the time, there there has to be I guess multiple opportunities to work towards a goal, so that if you don't if you fail at it once, you'll get a chance to try again a couple times, so that your character isn't just doomed from messing up just one time. And and so the way it works with Choice of Games is that there are establishing choices in the earlier chapters that kind of set the base stats for the character. So, like, are they a more charming fox? Are they a cunning fox? Are they a bold fox, or are they kind of shy? And so those first choices early on kind of shape the personality of the character. And then as the story progresses, there are testing choices where you're trying to succeed at some other goal, and then you succeed or fail depending on the level of your stats at that point in the game. So if you've proven yourself to be a very cunning fox in the past and you want to get some kind of secret from someone, and you want to do it in a way that involves like lying to someone or tricking someone. If you've proven yourself to be very cunning, you will manage to do so. But otherwise, if you try that cunning option and you're not very cunning, it doesn't really work out for you. Um, which is interesting because it can kind of feel like life sometimes. It's like playing to your strengths can help you out. But yeah, generally, we'd want there to be um, something about the ending, even if it involves failure or not reaching all your goals, that still makes it fulfilling in some way, or at least very interesting to read or entertaining to read. And so, but still makes you want to achieve and keep trying again. So I guess it's about finding that balance between ease and difficulty and um, failure and success.
All right, our next question is, what drove you to write your Fox Spirit game?
Oh, I I found out about choice of games just last year. I was um I was on the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America blog, and somebody gave a post about choice of games and what the process was like about writing for them. And I was very intrigued by that. I I loved games growing up, but I didn't really have any experience in like programming or coding, and so I didn't think that was really an achievable thing for me. But when I was reading about choice of games, I became interested in them, and I looked up their games and played several, which I mean, I highly recommend. There are so many that I really love. But that got me interested in writing for them, and then I looked up the process on their website. It involves pitching. First, you submit like a resume to them of your writing experience and publications, and then once that's accepted, then you do just kind of a basic fiction writing sample, and then after that you pitch them a few different ideas, and then if there's one they like, they'll work with you on creating an outline for it. And so that's the process involved in how I ended up writing for them. It's really great because even though I was worried because I don't really have much experience in crafting games, that's actually um, what they're looking for is people who have experience as writers and just telling great stories, and they can work with you and help you figure out things from there. But in terms of my inspiration for the story itself, I actually had ideas, even like back when I was really young, about creating some sort of fox spirit related story. And back then, I had an idea for it as kind of a graphic novel, which, um, well, when I found out about choice of games, I realized this format for it was even better because what I wanted to explore in that story was kind of um, morality and how like fox spirits are so ambiguous in the legends about them, how they can be, well, just all sorts of different things, really. And so, doing that in a choice-based format to explore those issues was just a lot more interesting.
All right, gosh, you're getting a lot of questions. I'm glad the thing
Oh
didn't
gosh.
work now because we'd have so much to get to. A lot of hyper fiction I've read leverages the power of the modern web. Images, video, cool text effects. What forms do you think hypertext fiction will take in the future? Perhaps virtual reality?
That would be so cool. um, yeah, I feel like there's a lot of different potential areas we can go to. Yeah, virtual reality and augmented reality are definitely among them, and I think something that's become more popular recently. At least I hadn't really heard about it until more recent years is things like escape rooms. Although now with the pandemic, I suppose doing live role playing things is difficult. But yeah, it would be really cool to see more augmented reality or virtual reality role playing games and interactive fiction in which you're even more immersed in the story. That would just be really cool.
Let's see here. We do have a few comments in general that they are making let's see here. They're already making VR, putting together interactive story world. Some amazing stuff is happening in those spaces. And VR escape room. That
Ooh,
is
cool.
that honestly does sound quite amazing. Oh, and I guess another person raised a fair point, and you know what? I'll use that to raise my own question. Um,
Mhm.
with games like Bandersnatch, sorry, being on things like Netflix or like some of these other interactive stories that you can follow, do you like how does that interact with the kinds of stories that you're writing? How do you think those kinds of things exist? Are we going to have more of them?
I think we definitely are going to have more of them. I was really intrigued the other day because I found out on our Kindle Fire Stick, one of the programs that Alexa can do is interactive fiction and being able to well, Alexa will tell you a little story and then you can make choices to like go different places or do different things and the story kind of evolves from there. So I think I find it really fascinating because I feel like interactive fiction was at one point kind of considered more sort of historical or old fashioned because once more like graphical based games started coming out with more visual effects and complex things going on, just telling a story and just having things change based on in the text based on what people say seems maybe a little more old fashioned, but at the same time at the heart of these things are great stories and great choices, and so being able to expand into these different mediums like Netflix and well, I think more people are becoming becoming aware that those are possibilities and that um, we're going to probably see a lot more of that in the future.
Well, first, I definitely have to comment that yes, you can play Elder Scrolls Skyrim on your Alexa. So if any of you are interested in that, definitely check it out. And let's see
Cool.
here, we have it. And then we have another thing here. Do you think interactive fiction could have a place in education? Since it's so focused on choices, it could also be a great tool for teachers.
Oh yes, it's actually used in education a lot already, especially Twine. I think I've heard of it being very useful for things like simulations of social situations and stuff in the classroom to help kids learn about um, even basic things like I don't know sharing or whatever, just social lessons and I actually know someone who found out about Twine because of a game that I wrote, and she's a biologist and realized that she could use the hypertext format to create a dichotomous key for different kinds of for identifying plants. I think it was so. In a lot of field guides, you have different things about like does this plant have 2 leaves or 4 leaves or things like that, and then you just, like, slowly winnow down your choices until you find the exact, animal or plant that you're looking for, and so she actually used twine to help teach people about that, which I thought was really cool. She made a useful tool out of it for identifying these, plants that she was studying, so, it's very applicable in education for sure.
That's incredibly wonderful. I don't have any other questions quite yet, so if you had other things you just wanted to talk about before we... Oh wait, no, here we go. There's one. Are there any genres you think lend themselves well to interactive fiction as opposed to others?
Hmm. I think I I feel like I feel like romance and relationship dynamics are actually things that have great potential to be explored in interactive fiction. But it's kind of interesting and complicated because when you're exploring things like relationships, if you're working with a player character and a non-player character, it's kind of interesting because you have to figure out how to sort of simulate consent and things like that because there's a static character, but then you're trying to like change the relationship dynamics, and it shouldn't when it's like a two-sided relationship, it shouldn't just be about like what the player wants and the player like imposing their will on like another character. There should be like some kind of variables or things running in the background that kind of allow for exploring those sorts of things. But um, I don't know. I guess exploring relationships and things like that is interesting and interactive fiction. But yeah, also I guess like role playing type games and and stories and quests and things like that. I think I feel like they call them power fantasies or something in choice of games where you can choice of magics is one of their really best games. It's one of my favorites, but it's cool because it doesn't just involve are you going to be good or are you going to be evil or things like that. It actually explores what um, what branch of magic are you interested in. So there's like life magic that involves um, creating organisms or like shape shifting, growing wings, things like that. And there's other kinds of magic that involve like dark energy or like engineering related sorts of things. And so interactive fiction is cool when it isn't even just about like relationships or like exploring social situations, but when it like expands your imagination to think like what are different ways someone could tackle this problem, what kinds of magic could they use, like in fox spirit you can use shape shifting to solve problems. You can use mind magic where you're you know brainwashing people or possessing them or things like that. There's illusions where you can just sort of paint a picture over things that makes it look different than it actually is, to kind of deceive people. And there's foxfire that you can use to make pretty fireworks or to burn people. So yeah, interactive fiction lends itself well to a lot of great stuff.
All right, our next question then. Do you think interactive works better in the second person as opposed to first or third? And what I think this means is like the old choose your own adventure books, you do the thing instead of like a different character you're controlling.
Yeah, second person is generally what people use, but I guess it just depends on the kind of story you want to tell. I suppose second person is used so often because it's really good for immersion, because if you're making the choices for the character, you want to sort of feel like you are the character. But I guess first person can be helpful for that too, saying I do this and I do that and things like that. Um, but I guess second person is just used so much because it has that kind of um, because we already know there's a layer of separation because there's the narrative voice and there's you thinking the thoughts. So I guess that's why second person kind of makes sense to people. But yeah, I mean, obviously, there's no reason you can't even use third person for it. It can actually be kind of interesting.
All right, then I have another question. How do you think AI affected interactive fiction? Something like AI Dungeon, for example. You could have a base story and allow the AI to interact with a player.
Oh, that's really cool. And actually, I wanted to mention that anybody who is in the chat who obviously knows more about this cool stuff than me can speak up because that's not something that I really know much about. But I just think AI is really fascinating in general, and I suppose it has contributed to the development of interactive fiction in a lot of ways, but I don't exactly know. Um, yeah.
Well, then here we go. Do you try to explore all story beats in your story, no matter the choices, and view them from different perspectives? Or do you keep things hidden depending on the choices made?
Hmm. Um, well, that's a really good question. I think maybe yes to to both of that kind of. Um, because with delayed branching, when with the way choice of games works, there really is like a linear story at the core of it, but different points along the way kind of look a little different or change a little bit based on things that you did before, which eventually culminates in an ending that's very different. But the spots along the way, like depending on your relationship stats with different characters, for example, at different points in the story, they might have slightly different dialogue with you or respond to you in a different way, even though you've um, arrived at the same place and kind of maybe have the same goal, uh, depending on like no matter where how you reached that point, but that point looks a little bit different based on based on what you've done before, and so being able to delay branching and have like central points along the way that everybody sees no matter what is kind of important to not driving yourself completely insane, but but at the same time you want players to feel like their choices matter, because otherwise why are they playing this game if they keep just end up in the same place no matter what they do. So um so it's really nuanced, and I think it's a really tricky balance to pull off. But yeah, also sometimes certain scenes can be hidden based on what you've done before. Like if you succeeded or failed overall at like finding out this person's secret, like you may not get like the opportunity to go and chase that person down later once you know what they're going to do, maybe hidden from you um in that playthrough. So
All right, and I think we touched on this a little bit earlier, but another person is asking, is it rare to find someone who is a developer and a writer at the same time? I was told that at an interactive fiction panel at SJC WorldCon in 2018.
hmm um yeah, I suppose everybody has their strong suits and their interests, and everybody comes to interactive fiction with their own strengths and their own focus. Like my focus has always been on the writing aspect of things because I just love telling stories, and so for me, interactive fiction is just another way to tell stories. But other people come to this from more of a programming perspective, and they think, what kinds of mechanics can I make in a game that would make it fun to play or would make it cool or different, or and some people just love messing around with like the nitty gritty of coding and things and figuring out how to make things work, which is really cool. Just really different from my perspective because I'm always just most interested in telling great stories. But those two things go hand in hand with interactive fiction, obviously, because you want to come up with great stories, but you want to have the mechanics to support those stories, because you want the interactive element to be meaningful and enjoyable. And so I guess there's a balance to strike between developing a good game and iterating it and testing it and telling a great story. There are people who do both, but I mean, I suppose everybody starts with one particular interest and then learns about the other side of it. Like maybe there are programmers who come at it and then learn about narrative elements and how to tell good stories.
All right. Since there are only there sorry, since there are things that only change a little, is a lot of writing an interactive fiction piece just rewriting scenes in small different ways? It sounds tedious.
Um, I did have to do a lot of that, but the more efficient you get with coding, the less you have to do that because there are ways to just create one passage that kind of applies to everyone, and then just create like a little line of code that calls back to that passage, so that you don't have to just keep like copying and pasting blocks of text and then rewriting them slightly. You can just have the same block of text that gets summoned but like maybe at different points in the story, or there are a few little variables within the text that so there are variables that work behind the scenes to store um, information, and if you have those variables keeping track of things, then that can also make your coding more efficient as well and make you less have to like repeat yourself as a writer, because you can just within that passage that applies to everyone, you can call back to those variables that slightly change things and slightly tweak things. And so there are ways to make it more efficient and less tedious, but um,
Well, we're not totally at the end. We have a few minutes left here, but as we're closing up on our time, I think it seems like a solid time to super plug yourself again, because I know some people might have seen you in the previous panel, but just in case they haven't, maybe make sure everyone knows the game that you just made and everything like that.
oh, sure. Let me just post it to the Discord really quick. Thank you all for bearing with me, and I feel like I probably know less about this than a lot of people here do, but I hope maybe something I said was useful or you've learned something. Okay, I'm pasting my game. Yay! Thanks for giving me the opportunity to do that. I hope people will enjoy it. I worked really hard on it. um,
From what I can tell you from the chat room, a lot of people have been enjoying this, and I literally see a comment of this has been incredibly informative. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Great. I'm sorry about the technical issues, but thank you for bearing with me. And thank you so much, Literal Grill, for ferrying questions to me. I don't know exactly why
Honestly,
my
I
quite
am
sure my screen sharing wasn't working, but you guys are great.
no. Well, absolutely. We just want to make this fun and awesome for everyone.
Yay.
All right. Well, if you'd like to, we got the link in the chat. If there's anything else you'd like to plug for yourself, please feel free, or any of your last words and comments.
Hmm. Well, I'm sorry I couldn't tutorial twine for you because I had some really fun plans, but yeah. Um Definitely just I don't know, get Twine, download it today or work on it online and just start playing around with it. It's really easy and there's a lot of documentation and a lot of ways to teach you everything from learning how to, change um the font or make transitions, things like that, to learning how to publish your game. And It's a really great interface because it's very graphically based. Unlike choice script, it's not like working within text files and things like that. It's more like mind mapping. So there's like a graphical interface with just different passages are just like little squares, and you can see like the arrows leading to them, and then you can just like double click things and type within them. Yeah, you don't actually need to know coding to use Twine, as long as you know how to use passages, which just involves like square brackets. Like, so if you use double square brackets on each side of a piece of text in Twine, that'll just create a new passage. And so then when people play the game, that passage, if they click that, it's like a choice and it leads to the next thing. So it's very intuitive, very easy to use, and fun to play with. I've got like looks like I've got like 20 stories right
Oh,
now,
good.
in various stages of development. Oh, I guess I can post my itch page to.
That's a good idea. And I can say in general, if you wanted to show up that tutorial, because it seems like a lot of people would have a lot of interest, um,
Oh,
we can
great.
arrange to make that something going on with the blog on the guild website if you'd like. That sounds like a fascinating interview to have in general, and then be able to explain some things to people. I would love to host that.
Oh, sure. That would be tons of fun. Thank you. Yeah, let's see. I'll post that little page for my itch that has some of my little Twine games. And yeah, and if anybody has any questions for me later, wants to reach out to me, I guess I could go ahead and just put my. I don't know if I should put my email in the. Well, I don't know.
Hmm.
If you
That
get
may be
to.
tough in the chat room, but Amy is a member of the Discord, and I know that I think if I remember correctly, you're not using Twitter as much, but you can be found there, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. Find me on Twitter. Let me get my Twitter. Let's see. Doo-doo-doo. There's my Twitter, I think.
There
Let's
you
see.
go. Yep, that looks right to me. At least that shall
Yeah.
hopefully should be able to get everyone to you.
Yeah. So feel free to message me there if you have any questions or, yeah. Hopefully I didn't say anything inaccurate. I'll hug my support hyena. But
All right,
thank you
well,
all so much for joining me. And thank you, Little Girl, for hosting.
I was incredibly happy to help.
Thanks. Um, yeah. Enjoy the next panel. Thanks for coming.
I hope they do. I'll be there.
Oh, right. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'll see you
Take
guys
care.
again in just a couple minutes.